Yes. Brink,
Here.
Oletsky,
Present.
Ford,
Here.
Fire,
Here.
and Hanson.
Yes, here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Third item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Could I get a motion and a second?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All opposed? Motion carries. Fourth item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the August 24th meeting. Can I get a motion and a second?
Ford moves.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Fifth item on the agenda is the regular agenda, and it's board consideration of a conditional use request at 801 North Lake Drive in the CL Lake Commercial District. Jana, will you take over, please?
Yes. So we saw this a few weeks ago coming to you guys for the annexation and zoning, which was sent for approval to the city council, and that was approved by the city council on September 18th to become effective on October 13th. We're seeing this before you for storage units at 801 North Lake Drive. And here's the vicinity map. I'll stand by with any questions.
May I? Are they going to access the storage units from the gravel road to the north or from the road, the South Lake Drive?
If the chairman will open the public hearing, we'll have the applicant speak on that.
I will open the public hearing if anyone's here to speak in favor or against.
Yeah, I'll just answer some questions. Colt Ruschink, I'm actually the property owner, and yeah, I can clear up any questions that you do have. As far as access, so we're actually creating an access on the north side right here. You know, so nobody will be coming off this side of the road and going through the main property. We want to keep that kind of separated. So yeah, access will be coming off the north road here, and then the actual building itself will be right here.
How many units are you planning on having?
It's just going to be one big building. It's not individual units. It's just an open shed. I mean, storage area. So.
Is that where you're planning on, like, storing boats and that type of stuff? for
Yep,
people?
boats, RVs, campers, yeah. And it seems like there's a pretty high demand just for getting that stuff inside over the winter, so.
Because I was seeing that, you know, on your, what you plan to do is going to be like, you know, you're going to have like lifts and docks and RVs and stuff. Is that going to be outside or is everything going to be inside?
So it depends on if you want to pay for the inside versus the outside. Obviously, outside is less, and of course, docks and lifts will be outside. We're not going to put those inside, but boats and campers will predominantly be inside.
Is it going to be like fenced or anything like that?
Yep, they'll actually be, can I zoom in here at all, or no? Yeah, that's great. So, yeah, actually, I'm in the process right now, so there'll be a fence running up to here, and then it'll be going right across here with a gated entrance here, and then fence along this side as well. Yep. So, and then, yeah, there'll be an access road running right along this line here.
And how big of a building did you say you were looking to build?
We're going to do a 50 by 140.
Jana, this is a question, I guess, for you or staff. That 169th Street, that's still a gravel street, I believe. Is there any plans from the city's side or that to change that from gravel, or I just wanted to ask, I guess?
Not at this time, but I can defer to our community development manager, Brandy Hatton, if she's on the line, if she wants to speak to that.
And-
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
So, and what Jenna stated is correct. Sorry, I'm sitting in the kind of the big exhibit hall room. It's a little loud because they're cleaning up, but no, at this time, because the north half is not annexed,
So with that, would it be appropriate if this was approved by the board to put a condition on there, like they would waive the right to protest future street improvements?
Yes, I would say so.
Okay, thank you. While we have the applicant there, oh, okay, go ahead, Hanson.
Can you ask about the size of the structure, but how tall of a sidewall are they planning?
The sidewalls will be 14 foot, so you can adequately get a camper inside.
And then at this time, if we go to approve again, can we require additional screening? I mean, I guess I don't know what type of fencing you're gonna put up, but could we require other, screening such as trees or?
Hanson, this is Jeff. We certainly can. I know you can't see the screen right now because you're driving, but where he drew the fence with his cursor, there's a thick row of trees between that and the lake. But yes, as the board, we do certainly have the ability to require a certain type of fence if we so chose to.
Okay, Mr. Rusick, I see that, you know, right now we're just talking about the storage units, but I see that you also plan on having family gatherings, lodging, and horses. You know, I don't think that's allowed in your CL zoning.
And that has been discussed upon city council. Brandy, do you want to elaborate on, or sorry, Ms. Hatton, do you want to elaborate on that, what was discussed at that meeting?
Yes, so currently the only uses that they are proposing that's needed for, that needs a conditional use is the storage shops or the storage units. Because recently we amended the CL district to move the storage shops to conditional use. And then the other uses that they want to do will fall under service establishment and retail establishment. As far as the wedding venue, that would be incidental to the service establishment use.
But, Ms. Hatton, they also state here that they plan to have horse boarding and stabling on existing stabling grounds. Is that, I don't even see where that's a permitted or a conditional use.
And so that was discussed pretty heavily when it was going forward with annexation and zoning. And so the horses are not an issue in this commercial district. I'm sorry, it was not this loud 10 minutes ago. You guys are getting that background noise. But the ordinance is silent on horses other than in residential districts. So the horse use is acceptable in the CL district.
Unbelievable. So someone can have like 20 cows and 5 horses, and that's approved in CL?
Cows. Other than, so hoofed animals, you cannot have within city limits other than horses. Then we go into the specifics of when a horse is allowed, and it only touches on residential districts.
I don't agree with that at all.
All right, well, thank you for those clarifications.
And I just wanted to bring it up where Brandy, Ms. Hatton was talking about the regulations of keeping certain animals. It's in Title III, where it says where it's unlawful for them to be maintained. And here it shows you that it's in the residential districts, R1 through R4.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for the applicant while he's still at the podium?
I have a couple questions. I'm looking at the CL Commercial Lake District, and I'm looking at the design standards. And under structure, 1C says, "The exterior of the building shall have varied and interesting detail. Large unadored walls shall be prohibited when facing a public right-of-way, the lake or residentially zoned property." So what sort of siding, varied and interesting, are you planning on this building?
Yeah, we knew that that was going to be an issue there, and we're open to, what would you guys like to see, or what are you concerned about there as far as the siding? And it says right away, and I guess the only right of way would be that lake road there, and there is a large, buffer zone of trees and, whatnot there already.
Well, I guess, what would you propose as the applicant for varied and interesting detail?
I would propose, steel siding, running down to about 4 or 5 foot high on the sides. And then, we can do a rock, we can do a brick, anything around the bottom there.
All right. And you were talking about having docks and whatnot stored outside, and there are some regulations on outside storage.
Okay.
Outside storage is limited to items related to the nature of the business occurring within the primary structure. They can't be on parking spaces. I don't know, Jana, how does that apply to the storage outside of docks and that sort of thing?
So per use, there are parking spaces that are required. Outside of that, it would fall in with the outside storage and displays, and you can require additional screening for that outside storage. I believe that is required anyway for outside storage. Brandy, can you confirm that?
Yes, and so what we're looking at here today, if you guys can't tell too, the screen that was behind me is now gone as well, so they're breaking things down here. But for the use that we're looking at today for the storage, the storage shops and units, that's really the conditional use that we're looking at. Any outdoor storage would have to follow ordinance. And then 2, just to touch on the design standards for the CL district, that when they would apply for a building permit, we would look through those requirements and make sure that those are being met.
And one of my other questions is, while the trees are extensive in the area where you're proposing to build this building, it is an old shelter belt that's dying. A lot of the trees are not in very good shape. And it also talks about where groupings of conifers and deciduous shade trees are utilized for screening. In order to provide year-round screening, a minimum of 50% of the trees shall be coniferous. I don't know that there are many coniferous trees in that area. I think they're all deciduous, that's what I saw.
I have no idea if they're deciduous or not.
But again, that is all for the outside storage, and right now we're looking only at the conditional use being the units itself. All of that will be regulated upon building permit issuance and when the outside storage comes into place.
This isn't for outside storage too?
But
So I think what
I do want to make sure that these are brought out and covered, and I'm curious to know if he is aware of what the responsibilities are in the commercial lake as far as design standards. It's a structure, And the ordinance lists design standards for the structure, so I guess I don't know why it's not part of what we talk about.
The design standards, yes, but the outside storage, display, and screening is not the same thing as the storage units themselves.
So I think I'm going to try to summarize the way I think it is. I think what Jan is saying is we don't, if approved and if they put something outside, they will already be required to screen according to the ordinance. And that's what she's saying. So that way, right now, if there isn't the right trees, they would have to put them in, if I'm hearing
Correct,
correctly.
thank
Yep,
you.
Yep.
So that is part of my question. They would be required to put in 50%?
Correct. We would hold them accountable to the standards that are outlined in the CL district for outside storage, display, and screening.
All right, thank you.
Okay, I just have one more question. When you're going to put in the fence and you're going to have the docks and the boats and the RVs and everything outside, are they going to be in the fenced-in area, or are they going to be randomly around the yard?
No, they will be within the fenced-in area. We want them secured as well, so just not anybody just can come into the property.
So, two quick questions here. For the CL district, does the 50% set aside apply to this? Or is there any protected lands here, wetlands or otherwise?
Not to our knowledge, that would be delineated by the Corps of Engineers to decide.
Have they been contacted and asked about if any of this is protected waters?
Not by me.
So we've been in contact with the U.S. Army Corps, and they're actually going through, they just had a reevaluation of how they administer the jurisdictional wetland determinations, and right now, this area, there is the area that really does retain the water that, is not, but if they were looking to do something different with that, that would, at the time of building permit issuance is when we would really submit a formal jurisdictional determination to the Corps.
Sure, and just follow up then, percentage of use for this storage unit, has that been calculated for the overall, what percentage of the property it is?
That would be determined upon building permit application.
Okay, so the applicant does have just some potential risks he has to consider then, going forward in compliance if there are some conditions that, are regulatory in nature.
Correct. So this would be, the board will be deciding on approval of the storage units themselves. Once that's approved or denied, if it is approved, then it will go forward to the applicant to make a separate application for that building. It'll go for a review to the building official, and he will do his review process, and regulations and ordinances and code will be met.
So I am still curious about the screening situation. It indicates here that that is something we should be concerned with. Here where it says before any conditional use should be issued, number E is screening. So I guess I would like to know what his thoughts are on that.
And you're speaking specifically about the storage units themselves, the screening for the storage units?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
1 second, could I ask a question to, board?
Sure.
With the, we were mentioning the coniferous and deciduous, percentages. Where did you see that?
It's in the CL
Keeping?
No, it's in 21, Brandy.
21.29, no, 21.2905.
2. 21-2905-2, and it's number, letter D.
Screening. Okay. Yeah, and as you stated, yes, screening is something that should be considered in relation to the storage shops and units themselves. So, that would need to be like, when they do apply for a building permit, that is what we would need to review and make sure that the screening was sufficient if they're going to use vegetation for screening. Especially if you've heard outside storage.
Right, I'm concerned about the outside storage aspect of it, because even neatly organized docks and lifts can look pretty tacky if they're not appropriately screened. And so that's one of my concerns, is to just assure that that will occur, whether it's with coniferous trees or, you know, a high fence or
Yeah,
whatever.
we would be more than willing to put a row of trees, a couple rows of trees, you know, outside that fence line if we need to. It's not an issue.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we bring up great conversation. It's, you know, if we put no conditions on, then if approved, it would follow whatever the ordinance says. But as the board, we do have the right to put on any conditions. So, you know, we could say trees and fence, or, you know, so that's been a great conversation. The public hearing is open. I do want to invite anyone else who wishes to speak on this to please come up to the mic and state their name.
Okay. I'm Doug Modica, and I'm a director on the Lake Campesca Water Project District. And could you put the map up, please? I live right across the street. And who runs the pointer here?
If you can, if you want to.
Oh. This is the driveway. That's me right there. I'm right across the street from them. Right. By the way, is this a 100 or 500-year floodplain?
The blue is the.
The pink is 100 and the blue is 500.
Okay, well, anyway, because I was curious. All right. At this point, I have no concerns about what's going on, because the storage units are not a problem. But, and the access, that's another good thing about the access. This is a corner lot, and the people, most of the people coming in from town will be coming from the top. And then they'll go down the gravel road to bring their stuff in. And so they won't be bothering me. Do you see where I am? So I don't have a concern about that. What I do have a concern about is the future. Some things that can go on in the future.
And I don't want to
Yes.
cut you short. I do want to allow you to say it, but the only thing we are voting on today is the conditional use for the storage units.
Okay, but what I want to make sure is, you're approving this on October 5th, and the revised ordinance goes in October 13th. So I want to hear from you that if this is approved, it will have to go under the changed ordinance where there cannot be campgrounds, storage shops, or apartments allowed. If this conditional zoning is accepted today on the 5th, the changed zoning goes into effect on October 13th, and that is the one that allows, that does not allow campground, storage shops, or apartments anymore. To make me comfortable, and anybody that's watching or our other neighbors, we want to be sure, I want to hear it from you.
Certainly.
Will you tell me that?
Jana, apartments, those were a conditional use before, and is that correct?
Yeah, so what will be on October 13th, that was passed by the city council on September 28th, where they approved the storage shops and apartments were moved from permitted uses down to conditional uses.
Okay. So.
And
think-
regardless, storage units is a conditional use on either case.
So I can't promise you that this will never be apartments. What I can say is if the applicant does want it to be apartments, it would have to come back before us as a conditional use.
Oh, yes, new conditionals. Okay. Now, the other question I have that just doesn't make sense is that on November, you're going to be meeting with the city and you're going to revise the ordinance again. You're aware of that. And so in November, the best case is if everything is moved to conditional, that would really solve things. Because here's the problem that I do want to say, is that number one is, and I want you to consider this, hear this from me, is the conditional is, it says automobile parking lots. Well, I questioned that at the previous meeting. They says, oh, that's where parking, you pay to keep things parked there. But why is it limited to automobiles? You can have conditional, it should be changed to the word commercial parking lots, because all retail, service, and restaurants have parking lots. And so why do you say, and I questioned that, I said, why do you say conditional for automobile parking lots when service, you understand, all the other permitted ones now have parking lots? And you said, and I was told, oh, well, it's commercial, it's where you pay. Well, then why do you say paying for automobiles? Then can you put boats, docks, and trailers? Those will be conditional, because it only says automobile. Please change it to commercial parking lots, not automobile parking lots. Just-
And that would be a discussion that would be held at the joint meeting when it's determined at that time, because as of right now, what would be effective on October 13th would be the permitted uses of retail establishment, service establishments, restaurants, recreational use, recreation facility, and religious institutions, and then the list of 11 conditional uses at this time. Again, as effective today, the conditional use of storage units is a conditional use. Effective October 13th, conditional uses is still a conditional use. So at the city council meeting and when the plan commission members as zoning will be invited to be a part of that discussion, then at that time, there'll be further discussions and possible amendments, not guaranteed, to the CL district. I think our city attorney could elaborate on that as well, on how that works with the effectiveness, but I believe that existing use, any existing use at the time would be grandfathered in if it exists at that time after the amendment takes place. That existing use would be legal nonconforming if they've established that. If for some reason they can build, like you were saying, a retail establishment as a permitted use from October 13th until hypothetically it gets changed in November, if they can get a whole retail establishment up by then, it would be considered legal nonconforming. Otherwise, if they change all of those down as you proposed to conditional uses, it would have to be brought forth again, but that's all hypothetical.
Okay, and then I have a second question on that, is why does the retail, just to consider this, why does the retail establishment list contain several services that really should be in the service list? And I'm reading it here. It says that well, let's start with the service establishment. Primarily provides services to the public rather than selling goods, like a hair salon, barbershop, where there's no product, just services. But up in retail, it says establishments that sell products, goods, or merchandise. Look, there's goods. It says, and it also, this is a retail, they can also provide services. So services provide services and retail provides services. And look at the services that you can have. You can have petroleum sales. Well, if they have petroleum sales, they can sell product, gas, but because they're a service, you could have a gas station there or just an auto repair place that sells auto parts and repairs. Now, that's permitted now, but yet under the conditional, for some reason, they have boat repair shops. Well, why if it's commercial lake, why is it permitted that you can have auto repair places, but yet you have to go to conditional to have boat repair. It's in the wrong place. You see how that's screwed up? It's just flipped around.
Conversation for November, I think.
Okay, and then also, why are restaurants permitted, but bars and taverns are conditional? They both have traffic and parking issues. Now, I was told, now I just have a question for you. I want to just hear this. If a restaurant gets a liquor license, then is it still considered a permitted restaurant? Or does it now become a bar or a tavern because they have a liquor license? See, I don't,
We do plan to have a public input in November, right?
well, these are the things,
That's correct.
You know, there are regulations to percentages, but of how much food for alcohol before it's a restaurant, before it's a bar. But I don't want us going down that rabbit hole today, because this wasn't advertised for that. I don't want to hear just, I mean, when that day comes, I'm guessing there'll be a lot of people here. And just out
Okay.
of fairness, I want to give everyone that equal opportunity.
okay, good. And just one last thing. In the permitted, you have recreational use and a recreational facility. You know, what's the difference? I mean, you guys, yeah, we have to get this straight in November, and I hope it's cleared up, because I'm satisfied with what's going on here. But I'm very worried about the permitted uses are wide open, and the whole neighborhood fears that, because we could have anything go in next door. And so I hope, I'm satisfied now, but I'm hoping in November that this gets cleared up, because and Councilman Bueller suggested that retail and service go into conditional, because that's way too wide open. So I'm glad with what we're doing here, and these people have just been really been through the grinder because of this CL zoning is such a mess. So I just wanted to bring that up.
No, and we do appreciate that, and I don't mean to be short. The CL has been a tough zone. I mean, it's been in the works for years. I think as a community, we all would like to see some things out at the lake that we currently struggle to get, because of the nature of commercial. But I mean, so we're working through it, but appreciate it.
Okay, thanks for hearing me out, and you'll hear me again in November. You'll be here in November. Okay, very good, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll get to use the elevator.
Is there anyone else from the public that wishes to speak on this item? Anyone online? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing and ask for a motion and a second from the board.
I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion, a second. I know we talked about some possible conditions as, I know one thing that I was wondering is if we wanted to do a waiver of right to protest the street improvements at a future time.
Yes.
And I know there was screening that was talked about. Would anyone like to make any motions for?
Just for Jana and Brandy, I thought the waiver right, I thought that was already built into the permit process.
It can be when we're issuing permits, but because this is before the board today, you guys would have the opportunity to require that to be a condition upon approval.
All
Right.
right, I would acknowledge and accept that then as a condition.
I would also wonder if we want to include horizontal siding on the building with maybe the bottom 4.5 feet being brick or rock. And then include coniferous trees involved in the screening for the outside storage, trying to move toward that 50% requirement of the CL district.
And I just want to confirm with the city attorney that the board can act on outside screening when that's not part of the conditional use.
So you're saying we're putting a condition on something that we're not actually granting a condition on?
Correct.
Yeah, that would be for another time, depending on the next phase of whatever they come before you. Then if it triggered that, then I would say yes.
So are you saying that when they do outside storage, that will come before us again?
No, that's regulated by ordinance. For outside storage and display is regulated by the commercial Lake District, it's permitted.
Correct, but it says here on our Board of Adjustment agenda that screening and buffering should be considered before we make the conditional use.
For the storage units, for the building.
But we could make a
The outside
conditional
storage
use
is part
any-
of the building,
We have,
not the outside storage part of the building?
the legal description is the whole property.
Right.
We could do screening anywhere on the property.
And that's what I wanted to confirm with.
I'm going to defer to the community development manager.
Thanks. I found a new venue also. So for the, now, could you guys repeat the question?
Sure, I will. The question at hand is where we can require screening. I guess, I know, they kind of, the applicant showed us with the cursor where he plans to build the building, but we could still require screening anywhere on the property, not just where the building is in theory, right?
It should be really, I mean, it's in relation to the use that they're
But,
applying for.
and the use, well, of storage units, I mean, is in relation to storing of docks, which is outside of the building.
Mr. Chair, just for consideration, I know in the past we've had these conditions on the lake property presented to us, and we have before put screening requirements on storage units, mainly the ones I think I recall were by the airport. And so I don't think it's inconsistent with prior board considerations.
So I just wanted to finish my thought there too. So they could do outdoor storage today and it would have to comply with ordinance where they're specifically the conditional use for storage units is what the board is considering today. So they would have to screen any outdoor storage in a commercially used district.
Right, so can we specify the kind of screening we would like to see since it's required?
And it's on the whole legal description, not just a portion of the lot.
I mean, I believe ordinance covers it, but if you guys want to be more specific, that's completely fine.
All right,
So I'd like to make a revised motion if I could. So I'd like to revise the motion to accept the, use of the storage units with the conditions of a waiver of the right of protest, as well as the addition of the screening requirements, to have the mixed use of coniferous in there as well. And then the cladding for the building, you have the lower portion, mixed cladding, as you described, be it a brick or a stone or some other surface material mixed with the steel. Understanding, I think you presented about 14-foot height for the sidewalls. So I'd make that motion to approve.
And what about, I'm sorry, and what about the horizontal siding versus the vertical siding?
Refresh me.
we wanted horizontal siding.
Yes. Any objections to that from the applicant? Okay, make it horizontal siding as part of that condition.
Okay, so I have a motion, and I just kind of want to repeat it before I ask for a second. So it's a motion to approve with 3 conditions. One is the waiver of right to protest future road improvements. 2 is screening that involves the coniferous and deciduous trees. And 3 is a building that has vertical siding, horizontal siding and a brick bottom. So those are the 3,
Or rock.
or rock, brick or rock. Okay, those are the 3. So I have an amended motion. Do I have an amended second?
Yes, I'll second the amendment.
Okay, thank you.
Could I ask for clarification?
Of course.
Are you meaning horizontal as in no metal? You're wanting residential siding?
Residential siding?
I don't believe that was.
No.
No, I think it can be metal, is my understanding. Yep, it can be metal. It's just it kind of has the nicer look as we kind of talked about in the ordinance allows.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that.
No, and I appreciate that. Whenever there's conditions, we want to make sure we're all on the same page before we take a vote, so. We have an amended motion and a second. Is there any other discussion from anyone on the board before we vote? Hearing none, I will ask for a roll call vote. Jana?
Hanson,
Yes.
Spire,
Yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Oletsky,
Yes.
Brink.
Yes. With a vote of 5-0, the motion is approved. Item 6 on the agenda is open public comment. If there was anything not on the agenda, not discussed, that someone would like to talk about, we could talk about that at this time. Moving on to item 7 is new business. Do we have any new business, Jana?
I have none.
Board? Moving on to 8 is
Old,
old business.
old
We have some old business.
business. First of all, a November meeting, I have no idea what you're talking about.
At the last meeting, Plan Commission meeting, the mayor came up and mentioned that he would like to have a joint meeting. I don't believe a date has been
Oh, all right.
set yet, but you will be notified of that
I
meeting.
thought a date had been set. So my other old business, I'm wondering, in the minutes we just approved today, there was the conditional use for the campground, and one of the items included in the motion that was approved was inspection to make sure the sanitary sewer is being adequately addressed. Has that occurred?
I would have to speak with engineering and get back to you on that.
All right, perhaps maybe next time we can have an answer to that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other old business?
No.
No. It was a conditional use for a campground.
I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We are adjourned.